What is going on, guys? Joey here, and it is a little bit windy out, so hopefully the wind doesn't cause any issues. Today, as you can see by the title, I wanted to talk about the new hype at hand, kind of break it down for you guys. 10 millimeter belt versus the 13 millimeter belt. If you guys are not paying attention, SPD just released a 10 millimeter belt that is, I guess it's modeled after the 13 millimeter belt. I went ahead and asked some of my lifters that got the belt early, how's it? I have always had a take on belts in general, regardless of the brand. And this isn't necessarily going to be too much about the brand of the belt. But more so, when would you want a thicker belt versus a thinner belt, and some of the feedback I got from my lifters. So, in general, I believe, through my own experience being a mildly decent squatter, right, that the 13 millimeter belt is going to be more beneficial, especially if you are not super lean. Although there's an argument to be made, there's an argument to be made that anybody, regardless of how lean they are, can benefit from the thicker belt. When you think about the squat, where the weight is positioned, you have the belt sort of on your torso, your legs are moving the weight, and you're holding it on top of your back, right? If you look at the bench press, the belt is below. It's similar, but you're pressed up against the bench, so you're gonna have other forces there that are keeping you a little bit more stable. And then deadlift is like kind of a different thing, and I'll talk about that later. But in the squat, if you think about it, when you're squatting and you get down low, in the squat, your legs are going to press up against each other, your quads, or your thighs and your hamstrings, or hamstrings and calves, sorry. Your belt sometimes touches your thighs, and if you're like a, squishier person, you're going to get like a lot of compression when you're down there. And that's why you see, a lot of bigger lifters, they're able to use their body to squat really big weights, sometimes more than they deadlift. And that effect goes away the leaner you get, right? The smaller you get, that effect goes away a little bit. Which is why you don't really see smaller weight classes squat more than they deadlift. Like you do see it sometimes, but not like all the time. So, it makes sense, right? You're adding a supportive mechanism around the torso that's not only going to help you, kind of stay sturdier, keep you more stable, but you're adding this like extra compression in the bottom of the squat. You're just like making that coil tighter, so that when you reverse, you have all this extra boost out of the bottom of the hole, right? Whereas like if you're squatting beltless, like I would bet that most of you, there's a dog barking, most of you probably squat more with a belt than without a belt. And based on everything that I said so far, having a 13 millimeter belt, even if you overlap it, like for me, first off, I went from a 13 millimeter, just like random Inzer belt. I think I was using a single prong actually at the time, so it might have been another brand, I'm not sure. I went from using that to a 13 millimeter SPD belt. Not only is the SPD belt like sturdier, it's stronger, it just felt more heavy duty, and with the weights that I was lifting, I definitely want the bigger, stronger thing. I instantly noticed, especially when I had my singlet on, a huge difference. Like I just was lifting like more weight, like it was just right out the gate, right? It was a serious boost and boon to my performance as a squatter, as a lifter. I would say if you have trouble hitting depth, then you've already tried moving your belt higher, then maybe you could try a 10 millimeter and that might help you. But I would still stand to believe that most people are going to squat more than the 13 millimeter. So for squat, and this was very consistent across my lifters, they're, sticking with the 13 millimeter for squat. For bench, some of what I said applies as well, but I think for bench, some people want like the flexibility depending on your body type. So I think in that situation, it's worth it to try both, and see which one kind of suits you better, see which one feels better. I mean, when you think about it, if you're using a thinner belt, you might get a little bit more mobility with some stability, and that might feel better than just having like something bigger and stiff, right? Going back to the last topic real quick, the 13 millimeter that I had, I could overlap it in the front to where basically from hip bone to hip bone, I had like 26 millimeters of belt, right? I had the belt was like overlapped at that part. And I mean, that gave me so much support, almost to a fault. But yeah, moving on to deadlift. Now, this one's interesting. For deadlift, part of me is like, okay, well, the reasons why you want the bigger belt for squat can also work for deadlift. You get to the bottom position, you have a lot of that compression, right? And that's going to help you explode up. But you might not have a problem with floor speed. You might have a problem with your positioning. And the bigger belt is a little bit more cumbersome. You just don't feel comfortable. It's messing with you mentally. So you might feel better with the 10 millimeter. If you're a smaller lifter, like 66 kg and below, I would say maybe even 74 kg and below, it probably doesn't even matter, right? I actually did have my lifters weigh the belt, and the 13 millimeter was only 0.5. It was like 0.4 pounds bigger. I think I'm saying that right, or heavier. It was 5.6 pounds against 5.2 pounds, so whatever that difference is. And I, one of the things I was thinking about is like, well, you definitely, like, if you can make yourself artificially heavier on meet day, like on the bench, for example, the tripod or the base that you're trying to blast the bench off of, could benefit you, but it was not enough to where like it even mattered. It is interesting that was the difference in weight. And I don't know if it's because the older belt, maybe it's more chipped. It might tend to hold more body sweat. I don't know. But it really wasn't that much of a different weight, which was kind of interesting. The lifter that I asked said that they were a little bit shocked at that. But on deadlift, going back to deadlifts, we see some lifters like not even wanting a belt, right? And I think it's because the deadlift is kind of like a lever, like you're levering the weight off the ground. You're building that tension, you're creating that hinge. And it's possible that on its own, just because of the way the deadlift is, like it does not matter as much. Again, when I was bigger, I liked having a lot of pressure in my core. It just made the first half of the pull like really easy. But you might not like that. And we see some people go beltless for deadlifts. Again, they don't really feel like they get a benefit. They would rather have that like more comfortable position. And by that same idea or theme, you might feel good with the 10 millimeter. It's literally like identical thinking there. So I would say overall, for some lifts, you're going to want, for sure, like it's just better for you to use the 13 millimeter. For other lifts, I would say try the 10 millimeter, see how it feels. This goes for any belt. It doesn't just have to be the SPD belt. SPD belt's good quality. It's going to last forever, blah, blah, blah. The thing that's most annoying about the new belt, hear me out, SPD, is that now we got to pack 2 belts when we travel. Jesus Christ, you know what I mean? Yeah, that's pretty much that. I'm double taking. I wasn't going to share this with you guys. I'm double taking because when I said Jesus Christ, I'm walking down the neighborhood. I know I'm getting sidetracked here. I'm walking down the neighborhood, and there was a literal, like we have Christmas coming up, right? There was a Jesus, like baby Jesus, Joseph and Mary, little like statue to my right. I don't know what's going on. That was very strange. Anyway, right when I said it, it was so crazy. Anyway, try them both out. If you made it this far, let me know what your thoughts are on the new belt. Are you going to get the new belt? Is it something that interests you? Are you like, hey, that's cool, but I'm going to stick with what's been tried and true? And let me know. Also, we have ordered and restocked new FLEXX banners. So if you guys are interested, check down below in the FLEXX shop. Appreciate you guys. And I hope you enjoyed this little video on my afternoon walk. Thank you very much. See you in the next one. Peace.